Hey guys, Chip here. So my last review on Blockscape actually did pretty well. So I'm gonna do another one on a pretty unknown game called Autocraft. So I played this game back in 2016 after I first bought it, and I never really played it again. I remember it was, pretty glitchy. There weren't many features, and I think there was only a sandbox mode. It's been just about 5 years now since I last played it, so I figured I'd come back and see how it stands up 5 years later. And yeah, it sort of does, with both some positives and some negatives. Now, I come to you with very bad news. I know. It's heresy. I mean, I should be on the electric chair right now. I forgot to record both my mic and game audio. So, I am dumb. It isn't super important, luckily, for this type of video, but I am sorry that you won't hear the game. I'll find examples for the music or sound effects. Just, please, I'm sorry, don't hurt me. First off, what is Autocraft? So basically it's kind of like a physics sandbox puzzle sort of game. If you've ever played Trail Makers, it really does remind me of that. In the puzzle mode, you're given a set amount of blocks, and basically you have to build a vehicle to get these like mineral sphere thingies. They're just like big balls. If you touch it, then you win the level. There's always these like little side quests for each level that you can try to do, but I actually found some of them to be literally impossible, like actually impossible, or, not really that hard. Anyways, I played around in puzzle mode for a while and through all the levels. It started off a little slow and repetitive. It felt like every single level I was just building the exact same vehicle. Eventually, they did start to introduce some new parts, so they were pretty fun to mess around with. I just played through. I skipped a couple of different worlds. I would have played it all, but I just did not have enough time to do that. I switched over to sandbox mode since I really do feel like this is sort of what this game is known for. And I gotta be honest, the sandbox mode was not bad. There were a lot of cool parts, I have to say. So I decided to make some stuff. The first thing I decided to do actually was to make a plane. And I realized they had a nuclear bomb. So I tried to make, I made a bomber plane with a nuclear bomb to unleash onto my non-existent enemies. So that was actually really difficult. I think it's really just because the tail rudders, they just suck. They don't work very well, so it just wasn't going up. Finally made a design that worked. Looks stupid, but it works. And so I launched my nuclear bomb. And yeah, it didn't blow up. It just went through the floor. What? And that was kind of an immeasurable amount of disappointment. And right in that moment, I was done. I was so disappointing. I was really hoping for a giant nuclear bomb, mushroom cloud. It just wasn't meant to be, I suppose. Anyways, on to the different categories. Gameplay. Arguably the most important aspect of any game, period. So what did I think? Personally, it was a bit meh. Starting off, it's pretty fun getting used to the game, seeing all the different content. But as you keep going through the puzzle levels, it just starts to just turn into any other old puzzle game. The thing is, it was always the same. It was build a vehicle, touch the mineral, you win. I really would have liked to just see some change in content. Oh wait. There's a gun. I am going to war. Oh. It's just crystals. So yeah, at this point when I first saw that gun, I was actually really excited to go blast some aliens. But then it was just to shoot some crystals. And I think that really kind of just sums up my experience with the gameplay. It wasn't bad, but there was just so much room for entertaining, cool mechanics, but they just weren't there. I mean, if I had some aliens running at me, that would have been awesome. It would have given me a direct threat on my travels, you know? It would make the puzzle new and interesting because it's not just your own willpower to finish. Now, you know, you're finishing because aliens are gonna come after you and you're gonna die. So, you know, there's a pressure to actually play the game. But alas, that was not the case with this game. Sandbox mode actually had a lot of cool blocks. I think this game really shines in sandbox mode because I could totally see somebody sinking hours into building different vehicles or contraptions with all those parts because there's so much room there. But honestly, the puzzle aspect of the game, the puzzles and levels that you go through really just kind of felt like an afterthought. So I haven't done a ton of reviews, so I don't have like a solid format. But I do think controls can be a pretty important aspect for a game. In Autocraft, the controls, for the most part, were pretty good. Unlike their game whose name must not be said, it had a tutorial. Believe it or not, it actually taught me how to play the game. For most games, you know, I could really just get by without one. But it is good to know that the game is catering towards its players, telling them what to do or how to do something. I mean, games should always have a tutorial, and it's best if the tutorial is just seamlessly built into the gameplay, like with Autocraft. Really, the tutorial is just some messages on the top right of the screen telling you to do certain things. It wasn't forcing you to do anything, it was just telling you how to do things, which is what it should be. But anyway, since many of the parts in the game really just kind of depended on what keys you chose for them, the controls are basically just a reflection on my own ability to make good controls. So there wasn't really much story in Autocraft, and that's kind of exactly why I bring up this point. I think it's totally fine for some games to not have story, because honestly, I mean, I care way more about gameplay than I do about story. But I feel like this game could have used a little bit. It kind of felt like I was just doing these levels for no reason. I didn't know why I was collecting minerals. I didn't know why I was there. I was given no context, which most of the time doesn't matter, but I think adding just a little cutscene or some form of context / backstory would have been really nice. And I think the reason for that is because this game is advertising itself as an adventure, a series of levels that you go through and complete. But this did not feel like an adventure because I wasn't given background to set up an adventure. I think that really would have just added a little bit more. It's a really easy addition. That's not a difficult thing to add. It could be plain text telling me why I'm here. That's all I need.
Graphics and sound.
So the graphics were fine. This is a style I see a lot in games, which is a polygonal environment with, you know, basic plain models. There's not really anything wrong with that, but sometimes I do kind of get sick of it. I think it really works for some games. Don't get me wrong, like Polybridge, I mean, it's in the name. Or Astroneers, especially because the art style is just kind of like cutesy and lighthearted, and I think it just kind of works with a low poly style. With Autocraft, it kind of felt just like the art style didn't really contribute anything to the game, which, like I said, isn't a problem, but I feel like it could have been much more unique. Quick editor's note. I already kind of left an editor's note like this, but anyways, I lost all of my footage, so I have sound now. So if you see me reference not having sound, this was recorded before I actually knew that was going to be a problem, so yeah. Okay, sounds. This is gonna be difficult. So they were pretty good. There were some nice sound effects from motors spinning, blocks breaking, crunching. I mean, I don't really have much else to add to the sound effects because, I mean, there weren't a ton. It wasn't especially bad or especially good. For the music, it was fine. It definitely wasn't a Boneworks or anything like that. But it was a nice, just basic ambient music in the background that didn't annoy you, playing over and over and over. One time, though, I actually did think that the game bugged out. Like, the sounds were broken. It was just repeating a sound over and over. But then I realized it was actually supposed to be a song. So that was really confusing for a minute. Here's an example of kind of what it reminded me of. Yeah. Anyways, I don't really have any major complaints about the sounds or music. Sometimes, and especially in sandbox mode, it sounded a little empty. really feel like I could have used some footsteps or something like that just to liven it up. I mean, it was just like I was in the middle of nowhere, which I was, but it was too empty. And I guess you could argue I'm in space so you wouldn't actually hear sounds, but come on. Performance. Playing this game, I really didn't have any performance issues at all. I mean, it's not a very intensive game. However, I did have a couple of bad lag spikes, which were pretty annoying, actually. I noticed that, like, when I went to edit mode to change blocks, it would pause for like a solid second. Since I'm going back and forth under that thing a lot, that was kind of annoying. I also noticed a couple of little lag spikes when launching the ship or changing levels, which they weren't so problematic that it ruined my experience, obviously, but that shouldn't be happening. As far as bugs, I really didn't find any. I had a couple of weird little collision things happen with like the car going to the ground and one with the player actually just flying through the ground out of the world. But that's just Unity being Unity. Overall pretty smooth, nothing really game breaking, which is what's mostly important.
Verdict.
Autocraft. Overall, wasn't bad. Compared to when I first played it, it was much better. More polished, more content, and I personally don't think it really deserved the mixed Steam rating. Sure, there are other puzzle games that are more interesting and more creative, but Autocraft isn't bad. Unlike, the game we don't talk about. I think what it really should have done was honestly just to scrap the puzzle mode. Felt like it was just an addition when I think it was trying to be the main game. I think it just should have been a combo with sandbox exploration at its core, where you can complete puzzles and challenges in an open world instead of just being a series of different levels you go through. I mean, sure, that does make the game a little more or less directed or uncontrolled, but that's what this game is trying to advertise itself as, an open world sandbox physics-based game, which with puzzles and levels, it's not really that. Really, this game was a matter of what wasn't done. There could have been more obstacles just to spice up the gameplay, multiplayer or something like that would really add something for people to continually do. But there wasn't. And so it kind of cut off the gameplay, I think, earlier than it should have. Unfortunately, the developer hasn't put out an update since 2017, which indicates that the game is essentially dead. I see this so much and it kind of makes me angry because when you publish a game and you build a fan base of paying customers, you do take on a responsibility to continually deliver. The developer argued, that he delivered on everything he promised, so there's no need to continue, but really personally, I think it should be an ongoing thing until not you think it's finished, but until your fan base thinks it is. There's still bugs, there's still opportunities for new and entertaining content. But the developer decided to say no and pack his things and leave for other projects. Get that some projects don't work out. I mean, butt bashers. But, I still see fans asking if it's dead or asking if more content's being worked on. Honestly, I think the game should have been worked on more. For example, Terraria, it's done. They're not working on updates anymore. But first off, that's a game with a wealth of content, hours upon hours of things for people to do. And they're not just like these basic little easy additions. This content is structured well and it's fun. It really is fun. The fact that they've added all these different bosses and different items to use, they're all unique and they all serve their own purpose. And a thing about Terraria is that, it has multiplayer. And before leaving, the devs added Steam Workshop support. That's what a game needs right there. That one little addition just added an infinite amount of content easily. They just created a fan base that is now self-sustaining, which is how you should leave a game. Anyways, my point is that the dev really should have left the game in a more finished and complete state than he did. All right, so do I think it's worth it? Personally, you could probably find some more entertaining puzzle games for your money. Polybridge or Trailmakers are great puzzle type games, sandbox puzzle type games that have not been abandoned and have way more content than Autocraft. Now, if you've played a lot of other puzzle games or sandbox games and are looking for something fresh, then this is probably not for you since most of the concepts are already seen in other games. That being said, if the game does go on sale or you just really want to try it, then it's not bad. I give this game maybe a 6 out of 10 on the scale. I mean, I just feel like there wasn't much originality, and it kind of felt like it's still an early access game, although it's already been released. Anyways, thank you all for watching the video to the end. I really do appreciate it. I always have a lot of fun making these videos, so I'm glad it was worth your time. I hope to make more of these in the future, but sometimes it can be a little hard to find a game to review, just because of how kind of specific the series, I guess, now is. Because I usually like to review older games that I personally would like to have experienced firsthand before, and then compare them to now. But I'm open to ideas, so if you do have a game in mind that you think would work pretty well, or just any game that you'd like me to review, then leave a comment. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.